so excited. Darin Leonardson, President and CEO of Transform Culinary Kits. Today, we're doing a new series on our Divine Wellness Kits. So trying something totally new. Love the style of this. I'm usually in the kitchen. I get to kind of sit back and chill and talk about the things that really excite me with food. Since it's the first, and I know it's going to be awesome, I've got notes in front of me, so I'm reading along as a guide. But I am so excited to talk about these different episodes. And episode 1 is going to be so exciting. It is salt, fat, acid, and praise. And so it's the real holy trinity of flavor. We're going to talk through that. I'm so excited to give you a chef's perspective about salt, fat, and acid, and how to incorporate that together and create that holy trinity of flavor that really, I believe, is the divine way of living that God put in the foundation of the earth through the food that he put on this earth. And I'm going to show you how a chef takes that and puts it on the plate and creates love and excitement. So hold on, let's go. Yes, I'm copying things that I've seen on YouTube that look really cool. So like Dr. Mike, I think does a cool job. Well, he's a science expert on fitness, and I love how he sits comfortably at his desk and talks about all things fitness. And then right here on the side, there's like YouTube videos and pictures. That's kind of what we're getting at. So yeah, you'll still see me in the kitchen with different things. What we thought we would kind of slow it down, and that way I can kind of collect my thoughts and not have to think about cooking and talking at the same time and really focus on the subjects that we're talking about. So super excited. Thanks, Rob, for being here filming. I'm excited. I'm in my office actually, and this awesome backdrop that my wife had created. She's so excited about the green color. I always get comments actually. So that's where we're at. We're in my office. We're actually going to do a 5-part series right here in the filming. So I'm going to be reading my notes. Eventually we'll get like things to make this easier, but you know what? Let's just kind of go with it so that it's real and raw. So episode 1 is salt, fat, acid, praise. So the real holy trinity of flavor. I'm excited to talk about it. So let's talk about real seasoning that changes your life, starting with salt and ending in worship. So let me do a little spiritual tie-in here. So flavor is a form of praise. And personally, like I just am so excited that I can finally connect my purpose, my passion to the glory of God and his kingdom. And really also understanding like he made me in his image. He's a creator. Like I love to create, and I love to do it with food. I love to explain it. So the fact that now I think we're finding a niche where we can share God's love, talk about Jesus, connect it to food, spiritually, tie it into Bible verses. I'm excited because I know that there's going to be so much that we're going to be able to fill up people's souls and maybe what they're missing from a wellness perspective, and tying it all together, because I really do think that you need the spiritual with the wellness and the fitness and what you eat all tied together. So the spiritual tie-in here is flavor is a form of praise. It's how we steward God's creation and delight in it. So there's 2 verses that I just want to share, and I've got my Bible here, which by the way, I have to share this with you. Like I've had this Bible, my dad and my parents got it for me in 1993. And I will tell you, I've moved like 15 times, and I've never lost this Bible. And I've lost a lot of things. And there were periods of times where I went away from the faith and didn't even read my Bible for several years. But for some reason, God just makes sure this Bible always ends up in wherever house I'm at. So thank you, Lord. So also just a really quick thing. I was like with my kid and Logan, and just he was like, I want to read the Bible more. I want to be connected. And so if you don't have the Bible app, you got to get it. It's amazing. And because it's always like, how do you start to read the Bible? Like it's overwhelming. Like these pages are so thin, and like there's like 1,500 pages. I've read the Bible from the cover to the back twice, probably fallen asleep over hundreds of times while I'm reading it. And I will tell you that that's because the devil doesn't want you to read it, so you get really sleepy when you do read it. At least that's what some pastor said one time, but I'm going with it. But I have listened to the Bible. In fact, James Earl Jones, like if you want to read the Bible in his voice, it's so cool. And anyway, so my son is like, so he got the Bible app. He's reading now the verse of the day. There's a video to watch. He's young. He's like, look, I ain't got time to watch the video. I'm just going to read the verse. And he's like, what can I do to like engage with God daily? I'm like, okay, so read the verse, then go to the chapter. So like in this example, Matthew 5:13, you are the salt of the earth. So I'm going to Matthew 5:13. One thing I forgot was that he was like, well, how do I get there? He's 17, he's got dyslexia, he's got some other things, maybe he's a little bit slow, but it made me realize that maybe I didn't do a good job as a father to show him like, hey, this is how you open a Bible and search for it. So the Old Testament, right? There's numbers for each chapter. Then the New Testament. And even I struggle with like, wait a minute, is that chapter in the Old Testament or New Testament? Like Hebrews, like I always thought that was in the Old Testament, to be honest with you. So once you find where that is, and so I'm looking at Matthew and it's 1093, I have to go to that page, 1093, to hit that chapter, right? And then I find it, or I find the book, then I go to 5. So here is like 2, 3. So then there's 5 right here. And then I go to verse 13. So I go all the way to here. So maybe this is, I don't know if it's new for some, but that's how you search in the Bible. And then what I do is I'll read that verse, and you can see it says salt and light right here. And then I'll go and read that whole chapter to get context, because I think that's important when you do read Bible verses, to get the context of what you're reading. So here it says salt and light. So you are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled by men. You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, right? Here we have a stand with a light that's giving light, right? Here, so sorry, I'm going back. Put it on a stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven. So we're trying to be the light right now. We're trying to focus on this verse. It's so cool that I forgot the context of that. So like reading the context is really cool. And now it brings light to episode 1 that we're about to go through here really quick. But the other thing too is the red writing, at least in my Bible, this is a new international version. And whatever version you read, King James, English version, there's so many versions. I mean, just pick up a Bible. Like, there's something so visceral about it. But anyways, the red is Jesus talking. And you know what's really fun? One time I just read all of Jesus' words. Freaking mind-blowing. I'm telling you right there. Okay, so let's talk about some of this stuff here. So salt. So I love the discussion of salt. I know that like there's the whole discussion of we want to reduce our sodium levels. You know, I'm in the senior living industry, so it's important to build flavor. I used to work at a Thai restaurant, and it was my first job, and it blew my mind about flavor. And what I mean by that is that I'm classically French trained as a chef, and you learn about fat and salt adds flavor, right? So those are two things that are in heavy moderation or in heavy consumption are bad for you, can be, but they add a lot of flavor. But the Thai, what is so unique about them is they believe in salty, bitter, sweet, spicy, and umami. Like those 5 combinations together, sweet, sour, salty, bitter, spicy, umami, is incredible. And if you master those flavors, you can actually reduce a lot of that heavy sodium and reduce all that fat and make things more fresh and vibrant by doing it with fresh spices, right? And this would be a great time to put like all these amazing, like cool, like ginger and peppercorns and, you know, citrus fruits and all that stuff right here. So hopefully that screen's right there and you're seeing it. That's cool. I have to go to that every once in a while to give that point. But that was really cool and it blew my mind. And then when I started to incorporate that into my French style background, I was able to take classic French recipes and rather than putting all the salt and butter, like maybe we're using some fresh ginger and more garlic, or adding some fresh chilies and cumin and galangal, which is like an Asian ginger that's spicy, and then taking like zest of fruits and adding that to get flavor. So there's ways that you can reduce the sodium intake. But we're talking about salt. So there's obviously iodized salt, there's kosher salt, there's sea salt, some are flaky. There's many different versions, and a lot of people always tell me, like, what's your favorite salt? And I'm gonna tell you hands down, if you ask pretty much every chef, they're gonna say kosher salt. And generally the reason for it is because you get an even distribution, so sprinkling it, hopefully they're sprinkling it on something beautiful right now. And the other reason is Salt Bae does it. If Salt Bae uses the salt, the kosher salt, then it must be amazing. I don't actually know if Salt Bae uses kosher salt. We're gonna have to fact check that. But it is the even distribution, and in fact, they're tiny little triangles that crystallize, and they when you bite into them, it's not a solid chunk, so it crunches in a really great way on your mouth, so that it doesn't, the bite is really even and it melts really nice on top of your products. Now, sea salt, great, good stuff. There's fine, there's medium, and there's coarse. There's definitely minerals in them. Like I think we all can like think of like pink Himalayan sea salt. There's also like Hawaiian black sea salt. There's green salts. There's French sea salt with gray little specks in it that you're thinking you're eating sand, but I guess it's full of minerals. I like those as finishing salt, but I'll tell you, and then I'm gonna tell you this little story. So iodized salt, I don't like it because it's so salty that you, as a chef, you can't, like, when you try to pick it up and sprinkle it, it just comes out in clumps. It's not gonna sprinkle evenly. You're gonna, if you sprinkle it on a steak, you're gonna get like all these spots of saltiness and unsaltiness. So kosher is just this even distribution. That's the salt you can use. And I know that there's lots of different brands out there. I'm trying to think of the one that was out for a long time, and it was so frustrating as a chef. Like I had to go back to using sea salt and iodized salt. Now iodized salt is good for like brining where you need to add a bunch of salt and sugar if you're like brining pork or salmon or something like that for smoking. But let me talk about this real quick. So we need salt. It's important. There's so many elements to it that I think are beneficial to cooking. And if your food lacks flavor, you're missing salt. So bottom line is you definitely need salt, but you can reduce the amount of salt you use through this technique. So I read this article from a chef, and I don't know his name. Maybe I'll find the article. It was from CIA, so Culinary Institute of America. And it was a chef that wrote about how to reduce the sodium intake and still add incredible flavor. And so he described it in mashed potatoes and your taste buds. So your taste buds, they taste sodium right off the bat. That's why when you sprinkle salt on like a strawberry or on cantaloupe or with lime, it like just sings in your mouth because it's the first thing that hits your taste buds. So his point was, because the salt's around that object, it's hitting your taste buds and you're getting that benefit of it combining with the flavors that are in your mouth. So where you're getting the negative flavor component is mashed potatoes. Great example, right? Chefs are making the mashed potatoes and then adding tons of butter, tons of salt to get it. As they're taking the bite of it, they're like, okay, is that salty enough? Is it salty enough? Well, no, they just keep putting it in. So I'm gonna tell you right now, restaurant mashed potatoes, highly full of fat and salt, and if it's a higher end restaurant, it might be 50% butter and cream. I'm not saying that's bad, it's absolutely delicious, but just know that it's one of those things where it's like, wow, when you start eating tons of restaurant food, those strategies that chefs have been trained They're just trying to make the food taste good. But so what he said was this: what he does is minimally salts the mashed potatoes and put some butter in it, right, and cream. But you could substitute that with chicken stock or vegetable stock. You could make it vegetarian or even vegan. And then he salts after. So he uses salt as a finishing. And so he sprinkles it on that mashed potato that might be with a steak and asparagus and carrots and maybe a nice sauce. And then when you bite into, you're getting a bite of the mashed potatoes, and then you're getting the salt right on the roof of your mouth that's hitting your taste buds. So you're getting, boom, wow, it's hitting your taste buds, it's blending in with the mashed potatoes. It even has more flavor, but you've essentially reduced the amount of salt that is on that mashed potato because it's not in the mashed potato, where you take a bite, and if you think about it, the surface area might have a little bit of the salt, but inside that potato, you just swallowed all that salt, didn't get any benefit of that flavor, and now it's in your body and probably causing havoc, especially if you have high blood pressure and all that, and I do. So that's some of the differences of salt. And a technique that you can do is don't salt your food so much, but use it as a finishing. So just like you finish with maybe on salads, fresh cracked black pepper or Parmesan cheese on Italian dishes. So like do that as part of your finish. Like if you're making food for the family, you've got 5 dishes, don't put so much salt in the mashed potatoes or the vegetables or all this stuff. Use it as a finishing right before you serve them, and you're able to reduce your sodium levels by 75%, but still have that impactful wow of the flavor and really being the light, right? And shining the salt that hits your taste buds. I'm just cheesily trying to tie that into the biblical stance of it, but there is a tie-in. So a few other things that's really cool about salt is the osmosis level. So, have you ever like seen like, you know, you have a cup and then it goes to condensation and then all of a sudden there's water on the outside, and it's like, how the heck did the water from the cup go up into that? And it was through humidity and osmosis and evaporation, and it ends up there. Well, same kind of thing with salt. Salt actually is able to pull moisture into meat proteins or any type of protein. So a little bit of salt into your marinades, things like that, will actually pull that flavoring into the product and actually go in and flavor it. That's why a lot of people do brine their turkeys, or the talk of marinating, wet marinating things is really important because you can pull that flavor, and osmosis of salt pulls that moisture in. So that's a pretty cool thing. And then you can do it through dry brining too, where you might have a bunch of steaks and chicken, and you can flavor your salt. That's the other cool thing too. So whether it's kosher, sea salt, iodized, like I'm not saying like throw out your iodized salt. I don't want to, you know, you do that, but I probably would. I don't like it. I just threw out 2 of them actually. I was like, I don't want these, and I chucked them. And I felt bad. I was like, I could put these in the brine, but I'm like, you know what? Salt's so cheap, so you know, it is what it is. Anyways, so making flavored salts is really cool. So like I have rosemary. I have fresh herbs in the garden. You've seen me cooking, citrus zest, all that. That can be blended up in a blender with the salt to make these incredible salt flavored dry brine seasoning that you can use in all your cooking. So if you're adding salt, maybe why not add the flavor of it? So you can get really creative with that. But dry brining would be, you know, in the simplest form, just some salt on your chicken or your steak and just letting it sit. You could let it sit for 24 hours. It will go in, and the salt will go flavor that product all the way through. But I'm saying, you know, we're talking about reducing some of the salt. I don't think it's necessary on those types of things. I think on a turkey, definitely. Don't dry brine a turkey, do a wet brine because it really penetrates inside of that. But thinner steaks, you could do it. I will tell you, I learned from some chefs. So questions always come up, or should we be salting before we sear, you know, right before we sear? Do we let it sit? What is the importance of salting? And I'll tell you that the first answer is I do not know. So I'm going to give you some answers from a chef's perspective based on the experiences that I've had, but I will tell you that I don't think it really matters. So as much as people say, hey, should I salt before this? Should I salt before that? I don't think it matters. I think, honestly, that technique from the CIA of salting right before you put it in your mouth is the most important thing. So you could just sear a steak, whether you pulled it out cold, room temperature, did all that, pat dried it, yeah, you're gonna get a better crust. But in the end, if you just salt it after you've sliced it, so you've sliced it, right, and then you season it, then you're getting that nice salt flavor with the steak, and it's gonna go bam in your mouth. And I will tell you, that's the secret right there that chefs do. They season their stuff right before you get it as a customer. That really great restaurants are adding that little flake of salt, and you're getting that pop of flavor. So, man, salt's so important. So, all right, so fat. So there's so many different fats that you can use. It's definitely good. Fat is good. My personal favorite is butter. You know, cheap butter's good, but also like expensive, you know, butter, like some of the grass-fed butters that are out there. I think there's a lot of flavor. I tend to go for the like golden yellow looking butters because I just think they're more farm to fork and there's more care put into it. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. Maybe they put some yellow dye in it. I'll have to research that, but I don't want to call out any brands. But I'll tell you, like, there's this new butter that's in our store, Amish butter. I'm like, I know something about the Amish. Like, they know how to make stuff. So I've been buying that, and it is creamy and it is delicious. Pelugra is a great butter. It's a European butter that I had a chef tell me, like, if you put that on anything, it's going to elevate it. Especially get a little bit of salt in it. So just the same technique of like finishing with salt, finishing with a little bit of butter is amazing. And I'm talking whole butter, like so that it melts over the steak and you get that rich butterness. So what could you use butter for? Olive oil, avocado oil, all those things. So the one thing I want to say about fat, it's important to create, right, a sear. Like when you're cooking things, you definitely need some oil in the pan, because if you don't do that, you're going to get products stuck in the pan. Even if you have a non-stick pan, the proteins are going to burn and caramelize in the pan, and it's going to cause a burnt, nasty flavor. And proteins caramelize at 330 degrees. So when it hits that hot pan that you might have turned up on high, it's going to start to caramelize and burn. So if you put a fat barrier in there, it lowers the temperature and allows it to caramelize at a lower temperature and create a more golden kind of crust. That's why it's important to put butter in the pan. Doesn't have to be butter, right? And so actually a little secret to know about the different fats that I talked about. So like butter, olive oil, people use seed oils, and there's a whole thing about like seed oils aren't good for you now. I mean, you know, like I bet you in 2 years you're going to say olive oil is bad for us, you know. So I think just in moderation, everything. But I'll tell you a little secret that the chefs do in restaurants. So they will clarify their butter, also known as ghee. So, you know, the Indian country, India does ghee a lot with the dairy cows, and all it is where you, at really warm temperature in a bain-marie, which a bain-marie is a double boiler. It's actually a French terms, and you would put like your butter in a bucket with a pan of simmering water, and what will happen is the milk solids will rise to the top and the clarified butter will go to the bottom, and then you skim off the milk solids, and then it raises the smoke point of the butter, because that's the problem with butter. You've all probably experienced it where you put a little tab in the pan and then you walk away and it's already brown. And then, you know, as a chef's perspective, a lot of times I'm like, I'm making brown butter. Like I've done that so many times when the kids are like, isn't that burning? And I'm like, it's brown butter. It's adding some nutty flavor to it. And some chefs do it, and that's probably why that whole brown butter thing was a trend that you would see in the restaurant. But the secret that the chefs do is they clarify their butter and then they mix it with olive oil. So then you get the flavor of the butter, and then you also get that richness of the olive oil too, and it increases the smoke point. So because the milk solids are gone, you're not going to burn. Clarified butter raises the smoke point. I'm not sure exactly to what degree. And then olive oil has a little bit higher smoke point as well. But one thing I learned about with fats is you've got to be careful not to cook them past their smoke point, because it changes the chemical a molecular structure of that oil and can harm our bodies. Like there's a lot of evidence that show you that if you burn an oil and you put it in your body, you know, who knows, maybe you're more susceptible to cancer or what, but I've read that before. And so I think it's really important to make sure you don't over burn your foods. Just like we've all heard, don't, like when you're grilling and the flame like goes up and licks your food and you get that carcinogenic taste on it. Like I think we should stay away from those things because they're just nasty and they taste bad, and we're ingesting that and putting it into our body. So love avocado oil, has a huge smoke point. I think it has a rich, clean flavor. These seed oils, like sesame oil, I absolutely love, like with Asian dishes. And sesame has one of the highest smoke points as well. So love that oil. I sometimes will mix olive oil, extra virgin olive oil with canola oil. And I like that combination for high heat searing and adding that flavor component to it. You really should never sear with olive oil. You're too extra virgin. You should never sear with extra virgin. It should be a finishing oil. But I think everybody cooks with it. And so I'm starting to wonder, well, this is not good. The other thing too is making flavored olive oils, flavored butters. You can do the same thing, like fresh herbs, citrus fruits, seasoning, spices. There's so much you can do. Pesto butter, romesco butter, garlic oil, so many things you can do, truffle oil, all that, right? So you can make your own, and that really enhances things. And just keep it refrigerated after you've made it, especially butters and stuff. And that famous butter, the maitre d' butter, oh my gosh, like it is incredible. So you learn in culinary school actually, so you mix butter with let's say we're making rosemary garlic butter. You mix it in a mixer and soften butter, and then you put it onto a piece of parchment paper. Right? Imagine this is parchment paper. And then you roll this over like this, and almost like making sushi, you pull this together, and then the butter fills this paper part, and then you can roll it up just like this, and you can date and say the date, and it's rosemary butter. Freeze it, and then whenever you need that flavor finishing on a steak or what, just cut it and just put it over the chicken or what. It's absolutely delicious, I'm telling you. So like in my freezer right now, I have like 6 different flavored butters. So you know, I didn't dive into like the importance of fat soluble vitamins A, D, E, K, but I think that ties into like the smoke point. So like eating those oils and not going past your smoke point, I think maximizes your mineral capability of getting out of those oils. So if you have to use fat, you want to maximize the nutrition capability of it. Now acid, oh my gosh, acid is one of my favorite things. So acid, there's actually, is it alkalinity? I'm trying to, if I'm pronouncing it right, alkaline. So there's actually acid in water. Like if you take tap water, there's actually a little bit of acid. And I know this because of the 7 steps of saute procedure, which we'll get into later. But if you've ever heard the term deglaze. So a lot of times you deglaze with wine, and they say it's deglazing with acid to release the fond, F-O-N-D, from the pan. Like if I was searing a steak and I wanted those little bits of pieces of the steak to be in my sauce, I'm deglazing the pan with like red wine, like a Cabernet Sauvignon. I'm trying not to drink right now because I want to be the fittest and the healthiest I've ever been at 50 years old. So I'm actually incorporating a lot of this lifestyle into my daily cuisine and the foods that I feed my family, and I'm already starting to feel so much better. But they do say a glass of red wine a day is good. Maybe, we'll see. I think it's what we've learned. It's actually the grapes. It's the grape skins that open up the capillaries in your bloodstream and produce more oxygen in your blood. So it's not the wine, it's the grape skins. But if you are drinking your wine, keep doing that and enjoy yourself. I have a giant bottle of Chianti right there. Okay, back to acid. You can use it to deglaze a pan, but there's so much flavor component to it and strategies that you can use acid to really spike up and add more flavor to dishes. So if you think your dish is lacking flavor, try adding some acidity to it through acid. And it could be a squeeze of lemon, it could be a squeeze of lime, even orange, even grapefruit. It could be vinegar, white wine vinegar, balsamic vinegar, champagne vinegar, sherry vinegar, so many different flavored vinegars, or even like reduced balsamic vinegar that still has that bite of the acid. Those are wonderful for finishing plates, creating sauces, swirls, awesome. And it's also a way to reduce the sodium intake by having the acidity on the plate. So then there's cool things you can do with it, right? Like yogurt, it has acidity in it. And then like if you ever had those purple pickled onions, they're so fun. And when I had a chef show me how to do it, you take red onions, you slice them, and you heat up a pan, and you add your favorite vinegar or acid into it, put a little bit of sugar, salt to get some seasoning, and then you saute the purple red onions, and they start to turn bright pink. Then chill them down, and then you can put them in a jar, pour all the juices in, and they'll last like 3 weeks. And they are the best thing on like pulled pork sandwiches, salads, in wraps. They're just amazing. Like I like to eat them raw, so love that. So acid will lift your dish. So just like adding the salt at the very end, you could squeeze a little bit of fresh lemon. Like think about when you have a fish dish, right? And you've got a piece of seared salmon. Just squeezing a little bit of lemon over the top really will brighten those flavors. And what happens is the same thing in your taste buds. It zings in your mouth. And so the richness of the salmon that's in there, the fattiness, some of the saltiness and the acidity, it blends, like going back to like how I talked about the Thais, how they do sweet, sour, salty, bitter. They sort of mastered that combination. Is just a wonderful flavor. So if you've ever had like a Thai curry or a peanut sauce, like the reason they're so good is they've incorporated all that. And so you can do that with normal everyday food by adding those components of flavoring to really address your dishes. So then lastly, like the digestive role of acid in your foods. I can't prove this, but I eat a lot of acidic foods, and my wife gets bit by mosquitoes all the time. Maybe it's her blood type, maybe it's what she eats and I eat. I eat disgusting things like sauerkraut, kimchi, pickled herring, sardines. I just suck on lemons sometimes, and all of those things are like super acidic, and I think that some of those foods are protecting me from getting bit by mosquitoes. I even looked it up, and I was like, what should my wife do? And they're like, basically eat some of those foods, and she doesn't like all that stuff. But I will tell you that it's wonderful for that, and also it is supposed to help with gut health and richness, and I think it will help reduce your fat and your sodium intake by adding the flavor of acidity to your dishes, and it lifts things up. Like a lot of times, I remember as a chef, we're eating a soup and we're like, it's missing something. Add a little vinegar to your soup, and it really picks it up. It gives you just a couple splashes, or whatever sauce you have, it really brightens it up, or a squeeze of lemon. So. Man, it's just so good. So flavor is a form of praise. It's how we steward God's creation and delight. I mean, he clearly made all this stuff, and he designed me in his image. So I love and I delight in that I can use this to add more flavor. And I seriously can't wait till I get to heaven and I'm on that dinner table and we're sitting around with Jesus and everybody, and there's like this amazing garden and the river, and I'm going out there and I'm going to pick some stuff, and I'm going to see if I can get in front of Jesus, and I'm going to squeeze. I'm going to be like, wait, Jesus, let me do a little bit of sprinkle of the kosher salt. Maybe we do it in salt-based way, and then I'm going to squeeze a little bit of lemon, or maybe there'll be some like crazy fruit that is like we've never even seen before that has a new flavor there. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed episode 1. Thank you, everybody.